You're watching Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling game retrospective series. The following video is brought to you in part by the amazing Patreon producers you see before you. If you'd like to show your support, you can do so at patreon.com/616entertainment. Your support means the world to me, and I love you so much. Now let's get to it. In April of 2003, EA Sports Big and the legendary Aki Corporation joined forces to deliver a product that no one saw coming. What was once planned to be WCW Mayhem 2 shifted gears after the 2001 closure of World Championship Wrestling and became Def Jam Vendetta, a game featuring the beloved engine of titles like WWF No Mercy, with a roster and story comprised not of professional wrestlers in the squared circle, but hip-hop megastars in an underground fighting ring. On paper, the idea is ridiculous. In practice, it's one of the most underappreciated wrestling games of all time. Those who know. Those who don't are missing out big time. Def Jam Vendetta would go on to earn great review scores and sell far better than parent company EA had imagined, which naturally prompted the suits in the office to greenlight a sequel as soon as possible. With lightning already caught in a bottle, would it prove wise for EA and Aki to step back into the ring so soon? I mean, this wasn't going to be EA's annual Madden-style cash-in with nothing but a few extra characters added in to differentiate it from its predecessor. Lead developer Josh Holmes wanted to go big. He wanted to expand on the fantastic foundation the first game had laid out. And with barely more than a year to write, develop, and ship the hotly anticipated follow-up, that was all a tall order. We all know what bad sequels look like, and they're not pretty. It would be a shame to see such a fate befell our beloved Aki-powered rapper grappler. If you're not familiar with the Def Jam series, I know what you might be thinking.
The writing's on the wall. It's EA, you know what the fuck they do over there? Come on! Like trying to cram 5 pounds of dog shit into a 2-pound bag. You know what I'm talking about.
Here's the thing though, the game is fucking awesome. Before we get too deep into the gameplay mechanics and match types and roster though, I want to take a deep dive into the story, and for good reason. Fight for New York story mode is hands down, easily, without a shadow of a doubt, the most compelling story I've ever played in a wrestling game. Be forewarned though, I'm gonna hit all the major plot points and spoil the shit out of this thing. You've been warned. Here's the deal, we're picking up right where Def Jam Vendetta left off. After suffering a hard-fought defeat and being arrested in his own arena at the end of the first game, the big bad boss D-Mob is being hauled away to prison. D-Mob was an awesome villain with an excellent voice, so I hate to say he deserves it, but, I mean, he is running an illegal fight ring. And he did indeed shoot our boy Manny in the stomach while he was trying to kill 2 other people. Did I mention he was the bad guy in the first game? The police cruiser carrying our beloved beaten boss is nailed out of nowhere by an SUV, allowing D-Mob to make a getaway. Who was driving that SUV though, right? Luckily, one of the cops caught a glimpse of the guy, and the description he lends to the sketch artist is how this game cleverly puts us in control of designing our own character, who goes by the name of the Hero. See, it was the Hero who hit the cop car and rescued D-Mob. He may have been the bad guy in Vendetta, but in Fight for New York, D-Mob is our mentor and leader, battling it out with his wrecking crew to regain control of New York's underground fighting circuit, one club at a time. Standing in our way is Crow, the other big bad player looking to conquer NYC. All seems to be going according to plan as we regain control of the circuit by defeating Crow's boys in legit one-on-one competition. D-Mob's longtime protege Sticky Fingers is not cool with us joining the crew and basically being the new right-hand man to the boss. And when we're chosen to represent D-Mob's fighters in a winner-take-all match pitched by Crow himself, he's out of here.
What? Man, this is bullshit!
You better watch yourself.
Nah, man, you better watch yourself! I'm out of here!
We come out victorious in the winner-take-all fight, and the war is over. The end. Just kidding, Crow's goons Trejo, Magic, and the newly healed Sticky Fingers enact a drive-by shooting, nearly killing D-Mob, the Hero, and Blaze in the process. This is where things get really, really dark. The drive-by doesn't just lead to another fight with Trejo where we best him with a well-timed suplex, no. We throw the motherfucker in front of a speeding subway train and murder him in cold blood. Def Jam Vendetta was very careful about how deep it wanted to dip its toe into the pool of violence, and clearly, Def Jam Fight for New York is not. After D-Mob is arrested in the wreckage of the drive-by, the hero vows a fatal revenge on Crow and his thugs. But Blaze keeps D-Mob's teachings intact. Everything the crew does has to follow the code of the streets, which is all about honor and loyalty. Fear isn't true power, but respect is. The hero takes the code so seriously that he turns down Crow's offer to double our current pay to jump over to his side. You're thinking, how did Crow take that rejection? Not well, unfortunately.
You should have been there tonight. Oh!
He kidnaps our girlfriend and tells us that if we don't win his clubs back for him and put control of New York back in his hands, she's dead. We're forced to turn our back on Blaze, on D-Mob, on all the boys who stood by us, and we can't tell anyone we're being blackmailed. Because the second the jig is up, our girlfriend is gone for good. Once the deed is done and Crow owns New York City, he tells us there's just one more thing he needs us to do, which just so happens to be killing our longtime partner, Blaze.
So this is it, huh?
Hold on to this. Finish him.
Perfect.
This is where the shit goes too far and our boy finally wakes the fuck up. The hero reunites with Blaze to take out Crack and Magic and gets the location of where our girl is being held, only to find the turncoat piece of shit Sticky Fingers pouring gallons of gasoline around the entire building.
Well, if it ain't the great fugitive fighter. Sup, champ? See you lost your escorts. I'm just here for the girl, Sticky. And I'm here for you. See, Crow figured this place gonna accidentally burn down tonight. And you two won't make it out of here. So I'm making sure that I get the chance to finally beat your ass once and for all. In the ring. Now it's just you and me!
The heat behind this confrontation has been building throughout the entire story, and the payoff is fantastic, as Sticky Fingers is burned alive and crushed to death by a falling beam from the ceiling. The hero's girlfriend may be dead, that's never really made clear. But what is clear is that this war has reached its boiling point. The final confrontation sees several of Crow's fighters turn on him, realizing how far he's fallen from upholding the code of the streets. The remaining members of D-Mob's crew battle Crow's boys outside while the hero sneaks in to confront the boss. As you might imagine, it was a trap. In one last moment of clarity though, Magic turns over the gun and leaves Crow to his fate.
No, shoot this fool! Now!
Hey, yo, you know what? Fuck this shit. It's all yours.
With the man responsible for this whole war, these countless mindless murders right here in his sights, the hero remembers the words of D-Mob. Fear isn't real power, but respect is. Honor and loyalty are the code of the streets. We unload the full clip into the walls of Crow's office, ready to walk away with a moral victory, telling Crow he's not even worth it. This doesn't sit well, obviously, and the hero takes a knife to the shoulder. Finally, the fight is on, and when it's all said and done, Crow is thrown from his office window, plunging 60 to 70 feet to his death on the streets below. The same streets he used and abused in his quest for power at any cost. Do you see what I mean? This is a story. We've got redemption, betrayals, blackmailing, murder. We've got it all. I'd take this story mode and put it up against any other wrestling game in history, no doubt. It's not just in the story department that Fight for New York stands head and shoulders above the rest of the genre, though. Pretty much every wrestling game since the late 90s has included a Create a Wrestler mode, right? It's a feature that we pretty much just assume will be baked into a game. Fight for New York's CAW mode takes things to a whole new level. We're not just going from tattoos to boots to jeans to shirts in one stagnant menu, piecing together a custom fighter all in one go. In Def Jam, everything feels special. You want tattoos? You gotta go see Manny down at the tattoo shop. Hair getting out of control and need a shave? Head over to Stingray's barbershop and he'll hook it up. A little extra jewelry never hurt anybody, right? Pick some up from Jacob & Company, which is a real-life, high-end brand if you didn't know. The legit brands don't end there either. We can unlock Jordan jerseys and shit too. And nearly each item of clothing has between 2 and 10 different ways to wear that specific item. The options feel damn near limitless, and going to these specific locations to make customizations make the smallest cosmetic change feel like a mission accomplished. Fashion is important in hip-hop culture, and Fight for New York keeps that reputation alive in the sense that the better you look, the more charisma your player carries. Looks matter. Okay, we can talk about the gameplay now. The main reason everybody loved Def Jam Vendetta was because it was, for all intents and purposes, WWF No Mercy with a new coat of paint. Here, in the sequel, things have changed, but that's not a bad thing. This isn't a copy and paste of the tried and true Aki engine. It has indeed undergone an evolution, and according to lead developer Josh Holmes, it was for a good reason. Holmes told GameSpy in 2004 that, for the most part, Fight for New York is not a wrestling game. He states that he sees wrestling as sweaty men in costumes throwing blows that don't connect, and that, overall, wrestling didn't fit. But there are gameplay elements from wrestling games that were incorporated into the fighting system because they made sense. If you've played this game before, you know exactly what he's talking about. Sure, there are weak and strong grapples, submission moves, and finishers, but all in all, this doesn't feel anything like any WWE or WCW game you've ever played. Fight for New York is entirely its own animal, and for that reason, I fucking love it. Each character feels unique thanks to the markedly different fighting styles from which we can choose. A wrestler like Method Man, aka Blaze, is going to want to get a hold of you and slam the shit out of you every chance he gets. Whereas a submission fighter like Busta Rhymes, aka Magic, is going to want to wrap you up and break your bones. Throw in a kickboxer like Xzibit to toss out some insane striking combos. Or play as a martial artist like Joe Budden, who's got the skill to duck those strikes the same way he ducked Eminem in 2018. These new gameplay styles are great and all, I really do appreciate them, but I would have loved if they mixed in some new match types for the sake of variety. Hey yo.
Yo, they did add new match types, you idiot. They added 6. Not even 1, not 2, not 3. 6. You can't call this a documentary if you don't know what the you're talking about.
Oh yeah, I forgot. There are indeed plenty of new and exciting gimmick matches to choose from here. Subway matches put the action right next to the third rail, and the first jabroni to get hit by a speeding train loses and dies. The window match is a favorite of mine, firstly because I love big bumps coming from a gigantic fall. Secondly, because when I got this game in 2004, the window match was always the way I would end a feud. This was the main event, the climax. The loser of this match also dies a sudden death. God damn, this game is violent. Demolition matches are super creative and a ton of fun to play. Our car and our opponent's car are parked nose to nose, and victory can be achieved either by scoring a knockout or by destroying the poor bastard's ride right before his eyes. Inferno matches are another great way to blow off a feud because, you guessed it, the loser dies after being engulfed in flames. Cage matches are especially intense in Fight for New York. A cage doesn't need to be 20 feet tall to be scary, DanDans. This ragtag scrap heap of a steel cage is plenty scary when your head's getting slammed into it like there's no tomorrow. Last but not least, the ring out match is pretty much exactly what you'd expect. Tossing an opponent out of the squared circle isn't a foreign concept, you know what I mean? Oh, I should mention though that you're not getting thrown over the top rope. Achieving a ring out first requires you to break the walls down like Chris Jericho, and what better tool to use than our opponent's broken body? Fucking brutal. The best part of all of these matches is that they can turn on a dime. Go ahead, put all that work into cracking a window or breaking a wall. Once it's ready to go, one wrong move can cost you the whole thing. This game forces you to fight smart or pay the price. Gameplay isn't the only area to see a massive overhaul either. The first game in the series featured several different arenas to do battle in, but all in all, each stage could be boiled down to 2 key ingredients: a surrounding setting, and a wrestling ring. Fight for New York has shed a good deal of its wrestling skin, and with that, most of the rings have gone away. This might sound like a deterrent to you hardcore wrestling fans, like, how am I supposed to compete without a goddamn ring? But in all actuality, this shift creates a vast array of diverse settings in which we can do battle. Fear not, there are indeed still rings to throw down in, like we see here at Club 357, or here in the Red Room. The Synergy Power Plant is a dark, dreary, and stormy setting surrounded by bloodthirsty fight fans and a high-voltage fence. Seventh Heaven is a strip club with, what else? A fight pit dead in the center. The patrons of this establishment like to rest their beers on the ledges though, so keep your eyes open. The Terror Dome looks like a fucking nightmare. Cement walls are topped with a chain link fence, and inside the combat zone are vertically stacked solid steel I-beams that have not been placed there for construction purposes. The scrapyard is usually where spent automobiles go to die, but in this case, maybe we'll see a fighter or two lose their life as well. The Limit is one of several bar settings where a beatdown can be handed out. Just watch out for the jukebox. When you get chased out of the bars though, what do then? You take the battle to the skies. The heights set our fighters loose atop an apartment building in the heart of New York City. Don't worry, you can't fall off the edge, thanks in part to the razor-sharp barbed wire bolted to the bricks along the roof. If cages are your thing, you can stop by the Gauntlet to do battle in the Octagon. If you're looking for something a little more hardcore though, Club Murder's cage is laced with razor wire. There definitely won't be any escape victories over the top of this structure. This isn't even every level, DanDans. There are plenty more to choose from, which should give you a hint at what sort of variety we're working with here. Def Jam Vendetta had an impressive roster of 46 playable characters, comprised of real-life hip-hop stars and fighters they made from the ground up. Fight for New York turns things up a bit, to say the least. Why have 46 playable characters when you can have 67 playable characters, right? We've lost DMX, which sucks, but now we've got our hands on fighters portrayed by Busta Rhymes, Snoop Dogg, Memphis Bleak, Ice-T, Xzibit, Carmen Electra, Fat Joe, Henry Rollins, and more. This is, as far as I know, the only game in the world where I can watch the famous actor Danny Trejo go one-on-one with the king of insanity, Flava Flav.
Come on, do it out with the best, boy!
Just when you think you've played as everyone though, you've realized that there are myriad unlockable fighters that can be added to the roster at any time. All you gotta do is spend the points you've earned across your fighting career. That's pretty good incentive to keep playing. I'm telling you, this game has something hidden around every corner. Sometimes it's a trophy you've added to your shelf in story mode, marking progress and celebrating accomplishments along the way. Sometimes they're words of encouragement spoken by a wise man. Words which you can carry with you for the rest of your days.
I'ma take your tongue out and lick my ass with it.
And other times it's, wait, is it just me or does this template character in story mode kind of look like dashing Cody Rhodes? After 16 years, I still don't feel like there's even one area where Def Jam Fight for New York is truly weak. The story mode is incredible, the gameplay is out of this world, and the unlockables hand us a replayability meter that can only be filled through a lack of imagination. And I'm not the only one who feels this way either. Upon release, Fight for New York was a certified hit, blowing the review scores of its predecessor out of the water across the board. And the same could be said for its sales figures, which came in higher than EA had expected once again. A portable version of the game would be released on Sony's PSP just 2 years later, this time dubbed Def Jam Fight for New York: The Takeover. Several new stages and moves were added, though the high production cutscenes of story mode were removed. The Takeover also reviewed like $1 million and sold well in its own right, furthering the legacy of the Def Jam fighting series, a solid franchise that no one ever saw coming. Many fans of the franchise were left wondering what might come next, but unfortunately, we'd never find out. Despite unanimous high marks from critics the world over and millions of copies sold, a third Def Jam fighting game was never released. A third Def Jam fighting game, I said, was never released. Although I don't feel like Fight for New York gets the amount of love it truly deserves, I've been very happy to see it popping back up in the news over the last couple years. Vice.com reported in March of 2019 that the community that celebrates these games is alive and well, and is still played competitively at a high level to this day, which is fucking awesome. The goons in the scene have even created a tier list to keep track of who and who isn't basically a superhero. Just a few months before that, the official Def Jam Twitter account posted this, asking fans which city they'd like to see a new video game take place in. I didn't read much into this at the time, and I still don't, so I'd recommend you don't either. This doesn't mean we're getting a Def Jam 3, Def Jam 3. It doesn't really mean anything, but we can all cross our fingers and hope, right? I know I'd be all over it. And if you know what's good for you, you would be too. That's gonna do it, DanDans. Thank you for joining me for another installment of Triangle X Squared Circle, the wrestling game retrospective series. Before we get out of here, if you didn't know, I announced at the end of the last episode covering WWF Warzone that I would be giving away a copy of Def Jam Fight for New York. This game carries a ridiculous price tag these days, and I wanted to pay it forward and get a copy of this game into the hands of someone who would truly appreciate it. And I know that anyone who watches this video fits that description. I'm happy to announce that Kyle Krudelbach, you've won. Send me a DM on either Twitter or Patreon. We're gonna get this fucking thing out to you, and I hope you love it. As you guys know, I always go through the comments and reply to you guys, and that's why I've got another thing I'm happy to announce, and it's that next time out on Triangle X Squared Circle, we're going to take a look at WWE All-Stars on the PlayStation 3. You guys really fucking want me to cover this game, so fuck it, we're going to do it. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Okay, what am I, fucking asshole?